communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels,
that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say.
Save it. It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.
Josh Robin, here's your Spectrum News in 90. A suspect is in custody, accused of opening fire at a Georgia high school 50 miles east of Atlanta. At least 4 people are now dead. Law enforcement says that at least 5 ambulances and a medical helicopter responded to the school. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is on the scene. Vice President Kamala Harris is in New Hampshire today announcing a small business tax plan. Harris is trying to appeal to the middle class, which she sees as critical to a win in November. She says the plan includes expanding tax incentives for small business startup expenses. This visit to the Granite State is rare since she spent most of her time visiting the Midwest and Sunbelt battleground states. New developments in former President Donald Trump's legal issues. A federal judge is rejecting Trump's request to intervene in his New York State hush money criminal case. The judge ruled that Trump didn't meet the requirements for a federal court to take control of the case from the state court where it was tried. And the Department of Justice is charging Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and other militants in connection with the October 7th attack in Israel. The DOJ says the charges include conspiring to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization, resulting in death. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the One's forecast.
It's Wednesday. Meteorologist Brittany Hamilton here with you, still looking at a lot of shower and storm activity.
Hello, I'm Robert Guadarrama. You're watching breaking news coverage here on Spectrum News. Law enforcement officials in Winder, Georgia are giving an update on the shooting at Appalachia High School earlier today. Right now, we know from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation that it happened at about 9:30 this morning. We know 4 are dead and 9 are being treated at the hospital right now. We're waiting a lot more details as far as the shooter, motive. We're hoping to learn that in the next few moments. You're about to listen live to a press conference there at the school outside of the campus. And looks like it's about to begin. We will take that to you right now.
I am Chris Hosey, Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. And we wanted to come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the events that have taken place here today and what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern, or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers, and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers here at the school. The priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult. handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning we talked with you, and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the Sheriff's Office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation, again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. That can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff and let you just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted. That will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today. Regardless of where they were in the school, this has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Bexar County Sheriff Judd Smith. Thank you. HOSEY.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judd Smith of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails. I don't know why it happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today. I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon, I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week as we cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you, we support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, if you're saying hate will not prevail in this community, are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
Well, shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me, it's hateful.
Sheriff, can you talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter? Can you describe that to us? How did it go down? What exactly happened to us?
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school, and was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it and how he got it in the school.
Has anyone talked at all with his parents or his family to learn more about what led up to these moments?
We have.
Any information you can share?
No.
What kind of weapon was
It seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir, I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
Sheriff, is the shooter speaking with law enforcement now?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking? Is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
Video surveillance, how is that helping you, Sheriff?
It is helping our investigation.
Sheriff, reports of threatening force perhaps made to the school prior to the shooting. Is that accurate?
None that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals deceased and was one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point, no.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm going to take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victims?
None that I'm aware of.
Was the shooter a student here at the school?
I know that you have a lot of questions about the student and that we mentioned that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation. that we're looking into every aspect of that individual, his connection here at the school. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Can you tell us how many rounds were fired? Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student, yes.
Is a student.
When can we expect?
We do not know how many rounds.
Has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you, we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here in the next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we'll be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the X.com. Thank you.
You just heard a press conference on the school shooting at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation confirms 4 are dead, 2 students and 2 teachers. 9 others were hospitalized with gunshot wounds. The suspected shooter is in custody and has been identified as 14-year-old student Colt Gray. Law enforcement say he will be charged and handled as an adult. The investigation is active and fluid. No motive has been determined at this time. Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith calling this act evil and that hate will not prevail in the county. Spectrum's criminal justice reporter Dean Meminger joins me now here in studio. And Dean, we got some information there. Still, of course, nothing on motive yet. That is what the investigation will look into. What stood out to you about what we learned today?
Well, that they are speaking to this 14-year-old. Immediately, he surrendered. And in that county, they have resource officers who, according to the sheriff, armed. And I guess they had the opportunity to shoot and kill that 14-year-old if he didn't surrender, from what we heard. But they are speaking to that individual. We don't know why. You heard their sheriff say, well, this was a hateful event. Right. That did raise the question from some of the reporters there, well, are you saying this is a hate crime? He did not say yes to that, but he said anyone who goes into a school, shoots students and teachers, 4 killed, right? 2 students, 2 staff members. He called that hateful, not necessarily a hate crime.
Right, and it is important, you know, in some cases that we see, the shooter is shot and killed, so we do not get to hear from the shooter. This will be very different because we might get a motive in the end of this.
Maybe. We heard them say, I don't know if I'll ever know the reason why, but we'll have to wait and see what the young man said. Does he have a history of mental illness? Does he have a history of violence? Only 14 years old, so depending on that school system, perhaps he is a freshman or a 9th grader, maybe a 10th grader, could be an 8th grader, not sure at this point, but only 14. So what does his parents know about him? Did his parents have a gun? Where did he get the gun from? You know, did he take it from home? Was this something that some of his friends had a gun? So a lot of questions still have to be answered, but the one thing we know here today, this afternoon and this evening, that families there are torn apart. They are dealing with death. They have to figure it out. And also, those who survived are dealing with such a tragedy. This was like in a classroom, and a lot of kids saw it happen.
Absolutely, and this is something we've seen time and time again, but really something that you always say, we always hear, you know, it won't happen here. It will never happen to us, and then it does for a community like this, about 50 minutes outside of Atlanta. Dean, let's talk about the gun, because this will be an important part, and as you alluded to about the parents, how much do the parents know? What was the gun access here? Obviously, a minor did not have access himself to a gun. So what could possibly the parents have to play as far as a role in this? You know, in Michigan, we saw the parents of the school shooter there face charges and face that. What do you think the investigation goes from here?
Well, once again, looking at this young man, as you pointed out, where did he get the gun? It doesn't have to be parents. It could be friends. It could be there was a gun somewhere he found. Right. What the sheriff said at this point, he doesn't know if anybody was targeted. But why did the kid go into the school today? Why did he go to that particular area? Why were students and staff members or teachers killed in this incident? And so many shot and injured. You're talking about 4 killed, 9 others injured, and the sheriff said in some way, one way or another, they were injured in the shooting and perhaps shot. So what sort of gun was it? You know, we often hear about these assault-style rifles that are used as opposed to, let's say, you know, a 9mm, but a 9mm could easily shoot that many people as well. You have 16 rounds there in a 9mm. So, and did this kid put anything on social media? Did
That's
he
always a
record
big
anything?
indicator. Sure, absolutely. You know, what was inside, what was going through that kid's mind at the time? Because, you know, mental health, you'll hear that argument brought up, that mental health could have played a role in this as well. Who did he tell? Who else knows something about this? Were there signs? Were there those flags, those red flags that he perhaps displayed?
Yeah, and also, how did he get the gun in the school? They did not address the issue of whether they have metal detectors or not, but we did hear a reporter say, well, how did he get the gun into the school? And also, did other students there that morning or earlier this morning know he had the gun, and did they approach anyone? Sometimes some of this information comes out a few hours later that people knew something, or this was a total surprise.
Right. What is the challenge here, real quick, for law enforcement in this situation? What kind of hurdles are they going to have to overcome?
I mean, they have this young man, a teenager, 14, years old, in custody, so they will get a lot of answers unless he's just, rambling on and not giving them the truth. But the big question here is, how do we stop this from happening? Right. And it's very hard to stop from happening in our country.
Calls, especially in an election year. Dean Memminger, thank you so much for your law enforcement perspective. We really appreciate you. And we want to thank you at home for watching. I'm Robert Guadarrama. More news right now here on Spectrum News.
Thanks for sticking with us on this Wednesday. Meteorologist Brittany Hamilton, as we look at our